Imagine being trapped in a forest in Canada, in the middle of a deadly storm, with your small children in your arms, and realizing that your only hope lies in the eyes of a dog. That is exactly what the Martins family experienced, and what happened that night will move you to tears. In the vast territory of Canada, known for its breathtaking landscapes, lie dense forests stretching as far as the eye can see, and majestic mountains that touch the sky. This is the land where our story begins, but today it's not the scenery that matters. It's what it will reveal. This is not just another adventure. It is a thrilling, real, and unforgettable rescue that will hold your attention until the very last second. In Kelowna, surrounded by mountains and forests that seem endless, lives the Martins family. Anna and John have always valued simplicity and raised their two daughters, Emma and Sophie, in a home filled with love. But the heart of that house has four paws and a gaze that speaks louder than words. Max, a golden Labrador who is friend, guardian, and inseparable companion. From cheerful mornings to quiet nights, Max is always there, wagging his tail for the girls or lying by the door, alert to every sound. He isn't just a pet, he is the living soul of the family, the invisible bond that keeps them together. It was one of those days when the forest seemed to smile. On weekends, it had almost become a ritual. The Martins family walking along the trails around Okanagan Lake, surrounded by towering trees and the cool breeze carrying the scent of nature. The sun filtered through the treetops, painted golden patterns on the ground, while the fresh air was carried by a chorus of birds, as if nature itself had decided to celebrate the Martins' presence. Emma and Sophie ran ahead, laughing and competing to see who would find a shiny stone or a unique leaf first. Anna and John walked hand in hand, soaking in that rare moment of peace, while Max, tail wagging and eyes full of energy, darted from side to side, sniffing every detail, leading the way as if he were the true guide of the expedition. It was a perfect scene, a portrait of harmony, the kind of moment that feels frozen in time. But nature, in all its greatness, always keeps a card of unpredictability. Suddenly the wind shifted. At first it was subtle, a cold breath cutting through the warmth of the sun. Then heavy dark clouds gathered quickly, marching across the sky like an advancing army. The birds fell silent, and what had been a trail of laughter turned into uneasy quiet. It was as if the forest itself held its breath, warning of something imminent. Anna's heart raced. John cast a worried glance around, and the girls, suddenly alert, clung tightly to their parents' hands. The adventure had changed its tone. The bright blue sky was now veiled by the looming threat of a storm. The first thunderclap roared from the mountains, echoing through the trees and sending shivers down their spines. Moments later, the rain came, not in timid drops but in heavy sheets that within seconds turned the ground into treacherous mud. Visibility vanished and each step grew more dangerous. Streams overflowed across the trails. Hidden roots became traps, and the overwhelming sense of being swallowed by a greater force consumed them all. Emma shivered, Sophie whimpered softly, and Anna tried to stay calm. But fear seeped in like the icy rain soaking through their clothes. Max, however, did not falter. Even before the first drop fell, he had already sensed the change. He looked at John and the girls as if to say, "Trust me." His steady eyes and alert stance became a beacon in the chaos. He circled the family, attentive to every sound and movement, ready to react. The storm was not just a natural phenomenon. It was the dividing line between peace and challenge, between trust and fear. Thunder cracked like a desperate heartbeat. The rain set a rhythm of suspense, and there was Max, the silent guardian. The storm gave no warning. The sky split open, unleashing a brutal fury over the forest. The wind roared through the trees, bending branches as if they were fragile twigs. Lightning lit up the path in frightening flashes, and each thunderclap made Emma and Sophie cling tighter to their parents. Anna gripped her daughter's hands. John quickened his pace, but the once familiar trail had turned into a dark labyrinth. The ground became an enemy. Mud sucked at their feet, turning every step into a struggle. Emma slipped and fell, her cry swallowed by the thunder. John rushed to lift her, nearly losing his balance himself, as panic spread like the cold seeping into their bones. Sophie wept softly, her voice drowned by the storm's relentless roar. In the middle of the chaos, Max stepped forward. His drenched fur clung to his body, but his eyes burned with determination. He wasn't there to fear, he was there to protect. Circling the family, sniffing, barking, alert to every shadow and every sound, he stood as a living shield against any threat. Even through her terror, Anna felt a spark of hope. As long as Max was there, they still had a chance. The forest had become a prison. Trees groaned as if ready to snap, creating a symphony of terror. The trail vanished beneath the mud. The cold gnawed at their skin, and there was no clearing in sight. Only darkness, the storm, and the will to keep moving forward. It was then that a different sound cut through the storm. A deep growl rising from the forest. John froze. Anna understood instantly, and the girls clung to their parents. Max stepped forward, growling low, his fur bristling, making it clear that it wasn't just the rain that threatened them. Time seemed to stop. Breath held, hearts racing, silence hanging between the thunderclaps. Max took 2 steps ahead, as if to say, "Stay behind me. I'll protect you." Anna pulled her daughters close. John tried to stay firm, but they all knew that in that moment, every ounce of courage was carried by that dog. The storm-stricken forest had become the stage for something greater, and in the shine of Max's eyes was the promise that love could face even the unimaginable. The roar came again, louder, closer, making the frozen air of the forest vibrate as if split by an unseen beast. The Martins' hearts raced, and even John, who tried to stay composed, felt his hand tremble as he held his daughters. Instinct told them this sound wasn't ordinary, not just part of the storm. Anna pulled Emma and Sophie closer, their muffled sobs swallowed by silence, a silence that only heightened the tension. But Max did not back down. He stepped forward, muscles taut, growling firmly. Each flash of lightning cast his silhouette like that of a warrior rising against the unknown. Suddenly, through the lightning and trees bent by the wind, 2 shadows emerged from the darkness. Wolves, hungry, driven by the storm. Their eyes glowed with a piercing yellow that reflected the fury of the night. They weren't just predators. They were survivors, desperate, and in that instant the Martins family became their target. Fear consumed Anna as she clutched the girls. John instinctively stepped forward, but Max had already taken the lead, unleashing a powerful bark that thundered through their chests. The wolves crept closer, paws sinking into the mud, teeth bared in snarls that tore through the air. Max, soaked and weary, seemed to grow before the danger. He did not retreat, did not avert his gaze. Instead, he channeled every muscle, every ounce of strength into one purpose: to protect his family. The rain and wind faded into background noise. All that existed was the looming clash. Emma whimpered. Sophie buried her face in Anna's chest, but both felt the vibration of Max's growl. Steady, unyielding, a promise. You will not be harmed. Then the inevitable struck. One wolf lunged, claws tearing through the wet ground, teeth ready to attack. Max was faster. He leapt with the strength of one who does not know fear, colliding with the beast in a furious clash. The sound of bodies hitting the earth echoed through the forest. The sound of struggle, survival, raw courage. The second wolf hesitated, but hunger drove it forward. It charged toward the family, John raising a broken branch to fend it off as Anna screamed into the chaos. But before tragedy could fall, Max, even locked in battle, let out a thunderous bark that split the storm, dragging the predator's attention to him. The scene was chaos, yet revelatory. The storm raged like a cruel spectator. Lightning lit the battlefield, and at its center Max fought with the fury of an ancient warrior, as if his very soul was forged in fire. His teeth sank into his foe, his paws braced firm in the mud, every strike the purest expression of unconditional love. In that moment, he wasn't just a dog. He was a shield, a wall, a hero. John, still clutching the branch, seized the chance to shove the second wolf away from his family. But he knew he couldn't hold long if it returned. That was when Max's courage blazed brighter. Still locked with the first wolf, he lifted his head, eyes fixed on the second. With a surge of power, he broke free and hurled himself at it, once again placing himself between danger and the family. Rain washed over his body but could not quench his resolve. In that instant, all understood. Max would give everything. He would not retreat, would not yield, would not let fear win. This was his family, his world, his greatest treasure, and nothing, absolutely nothing, would make him abandon the mission of protecting those he loved. Can you feel it? The ragged breaths, the pounding heartbeats, the snap of teeth in the dark? This was not just a fight against starving wolves. It was the revelation of what lives deepest in a loyal heart, the willingness to give everything for the sake of another. Max, the silent guardian, was turning a night of terror into a living testimony of courage. The fight dragged on until time itself seemed to stretch. The first wolf, enraged, thrashed against Max's jaws, snapping and snarling like thunderclaps breaking through the storm. The second circled, sniffing out the family's vulnerability, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The forest, once roaring with rain and wind, seemed to hold its breath, every tree a silent witness to the duel. Anna clutched Emma and Sophie tightly, whispering comfort that vanished in the deafening chaos. John, branch raised, looked ready to act, but all of them knew Max was the true shield. Soaked and trembling with exhaustion, the Labrador's body wavered, yet his eyes burned brighter with every flash of lightning. He hurled himself at the first wolf with everything he had. Muscle and instinct fused into raw force. His teeth found openings in the enemy's drenched fur, and his bark tore through the storm like a battle cry. The wolf faltered, startled by his resilience, but lunged again, only to find Max refusing to yield. This wasn't just survival. It was the living proof of the silent vow he had carried since the day he entered that home. He would never leave them unprotected. Suddenly, the second wolf charged straight for the girls. Time froze. Anna screamed. John swung the branch in desperation, but Max was faster. Even locked in combat, he found strength buried deep within. With a violent twist, he broke free and hurled himself at the new attacker. The impact cracked through the storm like dry thunder, the two tumbling in the mud, a whirlwind of teeth and claws. Every strike from the wolf was answered with fearless defiance. Max's growls sounding like declarations of war. "You will not pass," Emma sobbed. But through her tears, she saw not just her dog, she saw a hero. Sophie, between cries, repeated his name like a prayer, each syllable pouring strength into him. Anna's tears mixed with the rain, torn between terror and gratitude, while John, trembling, finally grasped the depth of loyalty that burned inside that animal. The battle felt endless. The first wolf, wounded and beaten by courage it could not fathom, slunk back into the shadows. The second fought on, but every assault was met by Max's relentless fury and devotion. Bleeding, drained yet unbroken, Max stood tall, eyes steady, until he gathered enough for one final strike. With a powerful leap, he forced the beast to retreat into the darkness. The silence after the fight felt unreal. The wolves had vanished into the darkness, but the family's hearts still pounded as if trying to leap from their chests. Anna clutched Emma and Sophie, feeling their small bodies shiver from cold and fear. John drew deep breaths, struggling to gather strength. On the ground, Max panted heavily, his body caked in mud and water, the scars of battle clear in scratches and bites. And yet his eyes still shone, the flame of one who had conquered the impossible. Anna collapsed to her knees before Max, but what she saw made her sob even harder. The dog was in a pitiful state, his body caked in mud, his soaked fur plastered to his skin, streaks of red running down against the cold rain. His paws trembled, scraped and bleeding, his chest heaved with effort, every breath a reminder of the battle he had just fought. Emma and Sophie threw themselves onto him, hugging with childlike purity, repeating his name with tenderness, as if love alone could restore his strength. John let the branch fall into the mud and, with trembling hands, stroked the wet fur, feeling the pain and bravery etched into every fresh wound, and understood. Max was not just part of the family. He was their very hope in that chaotic night. Anna wrapped him in a desperate embrace, crying with both relief and sorrow, knowing that every scar on his body was the mark of their salvation. That moment would not simply be remembered. It would be told, retold, and never forgotten. It was the climax of a night where love proved stronger than fear. But the storm had not ended. Lightning still tore across the sky, the rain fell without mercy, and the cold bit deep. The girls shivered uncontrollably. John rose, steady, and said, "We have to keep moving. If we stay here, it'll only get more dangerous." Anna nodded, wiped away her tears, and pulled the girls forward to continue on. Even wounded and gasping, Max summoned the strength to rise. His muscles shook, his paws sank into the mud, but he pushed forward a few steps, sniffing the air, silently declaring, "Follow me. I can still lead you." Anna tried to hold him back, but nothing could stop that determination. The children trembled without pause, their lips turning blue, clear signs that hypothermia was closing in. John realized they had no time left. They needed shelter quickly before the cold claimed his daughters. Guided by Max, they trudged through the drenched trail until a rock formation came into view. Narrow but promising. John pointed and they all stumbled forward, rushing toward it. Cramped and damp, The space still offered protection from the relentless rain and biting wind. Anna hurriedly stripped the soaked coats from the girls, wrapping them in her arms to return some warmth, while John scanned the area to ensure it was safe. Exhausted, Max collapsed at the entrance, panting but vigilant. His eyes, heavy yet unwavering, stayed fixed on the darkness beyond. The tireless guardian he had always been. Emma stroked his head and Sophie pressed her face against his wet fur, seeking warmth and courage. Anna and John exchanged a silent look, relief and fear entwined. The storm still raged and the night would be long, but one truth anchored them. Max would not abandon them. Even wounded, he was the flame that would keep the family together until dawn. Max didn't just see the danger. He felt it. The fear etched on Emma and Sophie's faces, John's silent worry, Anna's restrained despair, and he knew, waiting could cost them dearly. Even wounded and exhausted, his heart made the choice. Max would leave his family to face the storm and find help no matter the price. It wasn't impulse. It was the peak of an instinct shaped by love, a promise he had carried since the very first day he entered that home. The forest, now swallowed by shadows and lightning, wasn't just an enemy. It was the battlefield he had to conquer to save those he loved most. Anna tried to stop him. "Max, no! Stay here!" But he had already decided. One last look, intense and filled with promise, was his silent farewell. "I'll come back. I won't fail you." Then, with a powerful bark swallowed by the wind, Max tore through the mud, his golden body vanishing among trees and flashes of lightning. Thus began Max's race. A battle against the night, against nature, and against fate. The race of a dog who didn't run away but charged forward to save his family. Max ran as if every heartbeat were fuel against the storm. The forest, now a maze of mud and shadows, seemed to close in around him. Lightning ripped the sky, branches crashed down like spears, and overflowing streams forced him to plunge into icy waters that burned through his exhausted body. Time was his greatest enemy, but courage was his fuel. Max didn't stop. Not for a second. His eyes locked on the invisible, guided only by something unseen yet undeniable. The certainty that out there, someone could help his family. The cold cut deep. His paws sank in the mud. His muscles screamed in pain. But the image of Anna, John, Emma, and Sophie pushed him forward. Every stumble was conquered by the memory of the family waiting for his return. His eyes, lit by flashes of lightning, showed no fear, only the certainty that he had to keep going. After what felt like an eternity, the forest finally gave a sign of hope. Max, staggering, caked in mud, his body scarred by the effort, lifted his head at the sound of human voices cutting through the storm. Soon, lanterns appeared in the distance, slicing through the darkness like fallen stars from the sky. It was the reward for every step taken against the impossible. With his heart pounding, Max bolted toward the lights, barking with urgency, as if he carried within him the fate of his entire family. The rescuers froze, stunned by the sight of the golden Labrador bursting from the storm. His eyes told them everything, and he wasn't lost, he was leading. Max darted ahead, circled back, barked loud, "Follow me!" The seasoned team understood immediately and raced after him. In that moment, the battered dog became a living beacon in the chaos, a compass powered by love. Back at the rocky shelter, Anna clutched the girls, feeling their life slipping away in the biting cold. John kept his eyes fixed on the entrance, silently praying for a sign. And then, like a miracle, voices echoed and beams of light broke through the darkness. The girls, though weak, smiled with joy. Anna collapsed in tears of relief, and John let his own tears mix with the rain. And right behind the rescuers, panting but triumphant, appeared Max, fulfilling the promise he had made in silence. The reunion was overwhelming. Emma and Sophie threw their arms around his neck, crying and laughing all at once, while Anna stroked every inch of his wounded body, whispering thanks through sobs. John knelt down, hugging him tight, realizing the absolute truth. They were alive because Max had fought to the end. But this time, the hero couldn't stay on his feet. His legs trembled, his breath was ragged, and his body bore the marks of battle. That was when one of the rescuers stepped forward, dropped his backpack, and carefully lifted Max into his arms. The dog, though weak, still looked back at his family as if to make sure. "You're safe. I did it." Emma and Sophie reached out their little hands to touch him, their faces glowing with emotion, while Anna gripped John's arm tightly, knowing their lives depended not only on the rescue, but also on the recovery of their loyal friend. As the team wrapped the girls in blankets and offered first aid, another rescuer tended to Max, cleaning cuts, checking his paws, and wrapping him in a dry cloth to restore warmth. The Labrador closed his eyes for a moment, exhausted, but slowly wagged his tail as if to say, "It's all okay now." Outside, the storm finally began to ease, the drizzle powerless to stop them anymore. The Martins were guided out of the treacherous forest, each step lighter than the last because Max, cradled in the rescuer's arms, went with them as both guardian and victor. His mission wasn't over. It was simply being rewarded with the care he deserved. And so, beneath the heavy Canadian sky, a story was born that would never be forgotten. It wasn't just about a family saved from certain death, but about loyalty that defied the impossible. Max didn't just protect. He gave every ounce of strength carried when he could no longer walk, yet still kept the fire of hope alive in his eyes. That freezing night in the heart of the storm, one dog showed the world that true greatness isn't measured by strength, but by the courage to love to the very end. Max didn't just save lives. He inspired generations, etching his story into the hearts of all who believe that love is the greatest force that exists. Because even carried, wounded, and exhausted, Max was still the hero. The living symbol that when everything seems lost, loyalty can ignite a flame no storm can ever extinguish. A dog, a family, a deadly storm, and so between thunder and hope, the story of the Martins family and Max comes to an end. Max didn't just survive. He proved that unconditional love can pierce through any darkness. If this story touched you, write in the comments, "I believe in unconditional love." Share this video and spread hope. Subscribe for more stories that move and inspire. Because, in the end, heroes can come in the most unexpected forms.